Okay, good morning, everyone. Welcome to Mind Matters Broadcast, the number one broadcast in East and Central Africa. I'm your host, Valentine, and today we are going to dive into a topic that touches everyone's life, no matter who you are, where you work, or just your occupation. I know this topic will touch you in one way or the other. Our topic for today, we are going to talk about self-esteem. And with me in studio today, I have two fantastic individuals who are experts in the topic that you're going to discuss. They'll be joining us in this discussion. I am very excited for this discussion. On my right side, I have Yvonne, who is an expert in our topic, and on my left side, I have Mercy. Welcome, both of you.
Thank you. Thank you.
I'm very glad you're here. So, without further ado, I'll start with Yvonne. You can introduce yourself briefly. Then, today's topic we are going to discuss about self-esteem. Stay tuned to learn more.
Hello, everyone. My name is Yvonne Chepketel. Thank you very much for having me, Valentine. Glad to be here.
Hello everyone, my name is Mercy. Thanks for having me. Glad to be here also.
Absolutely. As you've heard from our expert, our today's discussion is all about self-esteem, and you're going to have a very interesting discussion. What is self-esteem to start with? Self-esteem is the inner sense of worth and value. It can feel so fundamental, and yet it fluctuates so much for many. I know you're asking, do you have either a high self esteem or a low self esteem? Don't worry, stay tuned. Yvonne, what's your view on self esteem?
For me, it's that underlying feeling of being okay, being enough. It's not about being perfect or the best at everything, but more about accepting yourself, flaws, and all. When my self esteem is healthy, I feel more resilient to setback and more confident in trying new things.
That's nice, Yvonne. As you've heard what our expert Yvonne has said about self-esteem, it is very important to just have a healthy self-esteem. And when you're talking about a healthy self-esteem, this is where we refer to as high self-esteem. We'll discuss that. Let's hear from our other expert, Mercy. What's your view?
I agree with that, Yvonne. I think it's also about how you talk to yourself internally. When my self esteem is low, I notice a lot more negative self talk than inner critics really comes out to play. It's like having a little voice constantly pointing out your your perceived failures or shortcomings.
That's nice, Mercy. As you've heard from Mercy, Mercy was trying to explain about low self esteem, while Yvonne was giving us some of the main key points of high self esteem. Now, viewers, what's your view? We'd like to hear your response. Kindly tweet into our email so that we can hear your response about self esteem. Okay, so that's a very important point that Mercy you have said. The inner dialogue can be so powerful. So we've got the sense of the inner worth, resilience, and the impact of internal voice. But where does self-esteem actually comes from? That's a good question for all of us. Where does the self-esteem actually comes from? Is it something that we are born with, or is it something that is shaped by our experience. Kindly, as we discussed this, just brainstorm and try to think, where does your self worth come from? Was it inborn, or it's something that was shaped in you as you grew up? Yvonne, what's your view on that?
Mm, I think it's definitely a combination. It's about how you've been brought up and also what you've learned as you grow up. We might have some inherent temperament, but I believe a huge part of it is shaped by our early experiences, how we were treated by family, friends, even teachers. Positive reinforcement and feeling loved and accepted definitely will build a stronger foundation.
Mm-hmm. That's a very good opinion. That's very nice. Mercy, what's your view on that?
Absolutely. Think about being constantly criticized or feeling like you're never good enough. That can really chip away at someone's self-esteem. On the other hand, being encouraged and celebrated for your efforts, not just your achievements, can make a big difference. I also think societal messages play a role. The constant bombardment of idealized images and expectations can make it tough to feel good about yourself.
Those are very nice views about self-esteem. We've talked about if it is inborn or you can, or if it is shaped by our experience over time. And according to Mercy's view and Yvonne's view, clearly we've seen that it can be shaped by you through your own experiences. I know all of us have such experiences, all the experiences about that. So we'll talk about we'll talk about it more. So that is a crucial point, Mercy, about social media. For example, it can be really double-edged sword, which can lead to feeling of compression and having things that are having a self-esteem shaped within. Sometimes I know most of us have experienced by either our feelings, by either of how we were handled. I know most of you can relate to stories of the old age. For example, maybe your childhood life was not that good. If your parent alishinda tu kukuambia no, we ni mjinga kama babako, you start developing a low self-esteem. But if your childhood life was a good childhood life, that you got encouraging parents who kept on believing in you, you can do it, you can walk, just trust me, just walk. During all those stages, it builds your high self-esteem from the beginning, from childhood to adulthood. Now this is a challenge to all the parents. Help shape your children to develop a high self-esteem, just as Yvonne and Mercy have discussed earlier. Yvonne, what's your view again on self-esteem?
Definitely, Valentine. I really love where you're coming from because if your parents didn't encourage you, they kept telling you that you're skinny or you're fat, it would affect you. Going through a significant career setback a few years ago really knocked me my self-esteem. I felt like a failure, and it took a while to rebuild that sense of self-worth outside of my professional identity. On the flip side, surrounding myself with supportive friends like Valerie, Valentine, and Mercy, together with my family who believed in me even when I doubted myself, was incredibly important in that recovery process.
Mercy, what's your view?
that, Yvonne. For me, navigating difficult relationships in the past really took a toll. Feeling constantly judged or dismissed eroded my confidence. It was only when I started setting healthier boundaries and prioritizing relationships where I felt valued that my self esteem started to improve. Therapy also played a big role in helping me understand those patterns and develop healthier coping mechanisms.
I can't agree more with both of our viewers today and both of our speakers today who are experts. So, and both of our listeners, thank you for your feedback. Kindly, we'll continue this conversation in our emails. You can email us, you can tweet us in our handles, which will be placed down below. But for now, thank you so much, Mercy and Yvonne, for sharing your insight and experience with us today. It has been really an insight conversation about self esteem. Our listeners, hope you've learned something about self esteem. I'll encourage you to continue practicing things that will boost your self esteem in order for you to have high self esteem. And as we've listened to our experts, as they have said, self esteem is not, it can be inborn, but most of the time it's something that is shaped with our own experience. So make sure that you try and have good experience and you shape your self esteem in order to have a high self esteem. Thank you so much. See you next time. Goodbye.